What are built-in functions? Built-in functions are actually quite a lot of them, about 200, actually a lot more than 200, yes. But you can categorize these. These are either going to be scalar functions, functions that come with SQL server per se, and scalar functions operate on a single row, and they also return a single output. We'll look at that in detail later on. We also have logical functions, which actually compare multiple values and return an output based on the value that has been checked. Ranking, again, is going to operate on a set of rows, creates a kind of partition or a group. So we'll look at that in detail. But finally, aggregate functions operate on one or more, but will return just a summary, single value. All right. That said, let's look in depth on scalar functions. Scalar functions, like we said, are going to return just one single value. So it also works most of the time on a single record or a single row. But our function might either get no input, meaning there is nothing that needs to be entered in the function. For example, if you look at the getDate function, it has no input, right? But in other cases, you might have one input. If you have one input value, there's an example of using upper. The upper function is going to take a text or a string or a single letter and return the uppercase of that letter. Likewise, lower is going to give you lowercase, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Also, in some cases, you might take in multiple values. For instance, the round function is going to take in a particular value, be it a decimal, and decides to round it to a number of decimal places. But you want to remember that anywhere that you can use a single value, you can also be able to use these scalar functions. You can see a bunch of examples here to the left, and we'll talk about this in detail later. But just the scalar functions, again, scalar functions are just a subset of our built-in functions. We have over 200 of them. They are usually divided into many different categories, as you can see in here. I'm not going to read them all out, but on the top left, you see the example, date time functions. You can actually take in a date time value from your column. Remember, our columns have data types, and you can decide to pull just the year and give it an alias and say that's the order year. You might decide to put the day or a date name. Date name is a very fun function that we're going to exercise in our lab. In this case, when you type in it's expecting you to enter, or the output is going to be a month, which is going to be 2 decimal places. DW is going to be the day of the week. YY is going to give you the date, or rather the difference is going to give you the difference between the order date in this case and today's date, which is get date. In this particular case, we're using a nested function. So we'll talk about that in detail. You're having a function within a function. So this actually runs first. You get today's date, and then you find the difference between today's date and the order date. But what we only want to focus on is the year. That's why we have YY. And that's going to give us the years since our order. All right. So that's just an example for a date and time function. Likewise, we can also have mathematical functions. As you see in here, we can get the tax amount. We can round it to no decimal place. So it's just rounded to the highest value. Or we can floor it. Floor it is actually rounding down, while ceiling is rounding up. But again, we can decide to round to a particular digit based on the value that is entered in the second argument. Also, we can use a square to multiply by itself. We can use the square root to find if it's the value that you need to multiply by itself to give that value. I can find a logarithm. So you might also want to randomize it. RAND gives you a random number, and you multiply that random number with your tax number to make it randomized. So those are some of the mathematical functions that we can use. Mathematical scalar functions, I should say. Also, we could be able to use string functions. Those are quite enormous, quite a lot of them. In this case, you see the company name will be put in uppercase or in lowercase. You can decide to find the length of the company name. If it's ABC, then we know the length is going to be 3. We could reverse it, so if it's ABC, it becomes CBA, and so on and so forth. So you get to decide or find the character index. For instance, find the first space within the company name, and it's going to tell you if it's the boy, then the first space will probably be the fourth option, the fourth index, or should I say the fourth occurrence, which will be the third index since it's 0-based. Also, you can look for substrings, you can look for the left section of the word, and so on and so forth. So all of this, again, is well documented in Microsoft documentation, which we're going to take a look at in our lab. Okay, sounds good. So that's it for scalar functions. Next up, we want to look at logical functions. Again, It's basically talking about logic, right? We get to determine what value needs to be returned based on the evaluation of an expression. But it depends on what kind of expression you're evaluating. If it's a Boolean expression, we talked about Boolean before. Boolean is either true or false, yes or no. So we give an expression, we evaluate it. If it's true, we return a particular value. If it's alternative or if it's false, we return another value. Just like we will be able to pass in an integer to be evaluated, right? So again, data types, if you know your data type is an int, we evaluate it. And we use the choose function, the choose logical function in this case, to be able to see. Here are some examples you see on the left. For instance, we're going to select the address type and we check if the address type, if the value of the address type says main office, then we're going to say we should return billing. Otherwise, we're going to return that column as mailing. That's what is going to be used as the column header. All right. So again, it's checking this column address type. If the address type has main office in there, it's going to return it as billing for this column. Otherwise, if there's no main office in there, if it's typed differently, for instance, if you have 3 Fs instead of 2 Fs, then you'll end up having it as your mailing address. Now, if we look at the choose function here, we're choosing the status. We know for a fact that the status of 1 means that the sale or the item has been ordered. If we change the status to 2, it's been shipped. If it's changed to 3, it's been delivered. So we can have a column that holds that value. If the value is 1, 2, or 3, that's what's going to be returned. So again, we're going to look at a few examples of those. Just remember, choose is going to evaluate an integer data type, while if it's going to evaluate a Boolean expression. All right, awesome. Let's proceed to the next type of function, ranking functions. Again, the input here is a set of rows. So for instance, we have list price. We're going to pass in the list price, and the output will also be a set of rows. And it's being used in many different cases. For instance, it's ranking offset. I think we looked at offset earlier. We'll also be using it in aggregates and distributions, which we'll probably not touch that much. But the ranking performs a calculation against a defined set of records. For instance, if you look at the example to your left, we're selecting the top 100 product IDs and names with the list price. We would like to rank it, and we're ranking it to order it by the list price in descending order. So it's going to rank the highest, most expensive item would be number 1. If there's 10 of them, all 10 of them are going to be number 1. And then the next item will also be listed thereafter. So that's how you'll be able to rank your products to say, okay, these are the expensive items, these are the least expensive items, and so on. In this case, we're ordering in descending order. In addition to that ranking function, you can have an over clause, which you do see here. Here, the over clause doesn't really have any addition to it, but you can also define partitions or groups, as you see in this example. Here, we're partitioning it by the name of C here corresponds to category. So we're looking at categories and the list prices. So we're breaking it by category. So the category of household items will have its own ranking. The category of sports items will have its own ranking. The category of food items will also have its own ranking. That's why we're partitioning it by the category in this case. All right. Awesome. Let's proceed and jump into aggregate functions. Aggregate functions are very popular. All right. And so you see at the bottom, the common aggregate functions I would see is count, which we probably use often just to check the number of items that we have in a particular table. We also have minimum, maximum, sum, and average. Okay. But what we need to remember here is the input is multiple values. The output is a single result. So we also might be able to nest them, which we'll talk about. There are a few guidelines. You cannot use it in a where clause. You cannot use an aggregate function in a where clause. You're going to experience or encounter an error. Also, you want to understand that null values are always going to be ignored. So if you're summing values, it's going to ignore the null. But in the case of a count, you do not ignore the null values. So if you're counting the records, it's going to count every row, whether the value is null or not. But you also want to remember that when using these aggregate functions, the columns usually have no headers. So it's a good idea to use aliases to make your columns be more descriptive of what exactly you're doing, because it's just going to say column 1, column 2, column 3, which is not very intuitive for us. And when you're using aggregate functions, very, very important that the columns in your select clause must be included in the aggregate function itself. So as you see in some of these examples, we're able to get the average list price, the minimum list price, and the maximum list price. But we're also using aliases to be able to explain to you what each one of these values are. Also, you might go ahead and use minimum, maximum on a text value or a string value. It doesn't have to always be a number or numeric. In this case, we're using it to check the numbers or the names of the company. If the company's name is ABC, it's probably going to be maximum, or sorry, minimum. If the company's name is XYZ, it's probably going to be maximum. All right. Also, in the case of nesting, we're able to use the date time function of year to be able to pull just the year for our order date, as you can see in this case, the very last example. But then once we've gotten those years, we would like to also check the minimum in the first case or the maximum in the second case and return them as the earliest or the latest orders that were placed for us. So that's how you go ahead to do a nested function. Remember, the innermost function gets evaluated first before the outermost function is evaluated. All right, very good. Now, following our aggregate functions, it's always a good idea to group your content. Okay, think of a pivot table when you have those different groups. So again, a group by clause is used to subdivide your output into groups of rows. Very similar to a distinct, as you see at the top here. If you select just the customer ID from your sales order header table, use the group by clause, it is pretty much the same as just saying select distinct customer ID. Why would you want to use one over the other? You would probably want to use a group by clause if you need to add an aggregate function. For instance, in the next case, if we needed to add a count of all the orders for a particular customer, then you definitely need a group by, and a distinct will not work in that case. So with a group by, you can then have a very well-designed table or output that will show you all your customer IDs and the number of orders that they have had for each one. All right. In addition, you could also use an order by clause. The order by clause will then be able to help you order your output, because obviously there's no guarantee that SQL is going to give you in the output in the order that you need. But a few things to remember. We talked about order of operations earlier. Even though it's written in this format, you know that the from clause gets executed first, and then you group your stuff, and then you select, and then you order it by after you've gotten the output. A few things to note when you're also working with the group by functions, you might run into some errors. Common errors would be if, for instance, this is going to run perfectly fine because I'm grouping by user ID and purchase order number. But if I remove any one of these, I can probably I will definitely run into an error, because it's going to tell you or complain to you that you cannot have a column in your select clause if it's not included in your group by clause. So you have to be careful of those. It's either have to be in your group by clause or it has to be in an aggregate function. Okay. But if you have this as an aggregate function to say maximum purchase order number, then it should work just fine if we take purchase number, order number out from this case. All right. Let's take an example again, or let's look a little bit further at, in this case, filtering those groups. So think about the where clause that we looked at earlier when we were able to select a table, or should I say, look from a table and select records. We got to get the entire table, and then we use the where clause to filter. In this case, we're filtering groups. Okay, so the having clause acts as a filter on groups, very similar to our where clause. So for instance, if you look at this example again that we looked at recently, looking at all the customer IDs and their orders, or number of orders that are placed, we can go ahead and add a having clause, which will say if the count is greater than 10, then we want to include it in our data set. If the count is not greater than 10, then it's going to be discarded from our data set. But in some cases also, you could have the where clause and the having clause. If you have both of them, you need to remember that the where clause is going to be executed first, because it's going to filter the information for each row, and then your group by is going to be processed, which will then group all your records together after they've been filtered. And finally, you have your having filter that's going to filter the groups based on the output. So having usually looks at the result of an aggregate. We need to keep that in mind. Awesome. And that said, I think we probably covered everything that needs to be talked about. Again, functions, a few things that we need to remember. The documentation is out there because we definitely cannot exhaust every single one of them. We could have scalar functions, for instance, date, string, and math functions. We could also use logical functions. We'll talk about this numeric in our lab, if and choose. And finally, you have aggregate functions, for instance, count, average, minimum, maximum, and so on and so forth. Group by is very useful when we want to aggregate our results, and having is also very useful if we want to filter the groups of records that we've outputted. A few challenges for you. We'll expect you to, before we get into our challenges, just a recap. We talked about categorizing those built-in functions, how to use our functions and scalar functions, ranking functions, aggregate functions, and summarizing our data with group by, also filtering our data, with, or filtering our groups, I should say, with the having clause. That said, we should now be able to proceed to exercise a few challenges, which I'm going to send a video for that. A few things to point out: we retrieve order, shipping information, as well as aggregate some product sales information. All right. That said, if you have any questions, please do reach out, and I will do my best to answer all your questions. Otherwise, thank you very much for keeping up, and I hope you get to enjoy watching the demo of our challenges and a few of our examples as well. Just to, remember that practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the more you know, the more mistakes you make, the more you learn. And function